Richard Norton Smith, On His Own Terms, A Life of Nelson Rockefeller. Delve into the fascinating life of Nelson Rockefeller, a prominent figure in American politics with an illustrious family legacy. Through this summary of the book, On His Own Terms, A Life of Nelson Rockefeller, by Richard Norton Smith, we will explore Nelson's early struggles with dyslexia, his passion for art and philanthropy, and his journey as a diplomat, entrepreneur, and political leader. The summary will also highlight Nelson's various political roles, including his tenure as governor of New York, vice president, and his multiple attempts at running for president.
The creative business instincts of Nelson Rockefeller. Nelson Rockefeller, the grandson of John D. Rockefeller Sr., the founder of Standard Oil, struggled with dyslexia while growing up. However, he had supportive tutors and enrolled in a progressive educational institution that contributed significantly to his academic achievements. Despite his average grades, he went on to attend Dartmouth College, where he developed a passion for photography, art, and architecture. Rockefeller also inherited his father's philanthropic passion, focusing his creative business instincts to improve the world. Nelson Rockefeller's artistic influence. Nelson Rockefeller, inspired by his mother, developed a passionate interest in art. He played a crucial role in establishing the Museum of Modern Art in New York City and introducing artists such as Picasso and Matisse to the American public. At the same time, he assisted his father in building Rockefeller Center and was closely involved in the artistic aspects of both projects. His advocacy for local architects and commissioning of Diego Rivera's mural in the Rockefeller Center lobby were controversial but reflected his commitment to promoting art. Despite the controversial mural, Nelson continued to admire Rivera and mended their friendship years later. Nelson Rockefeller's journey to philanthropy and politics. Inheriting $3.2 million in stock from his father, Nelson Rockefeller used his entrepreneurial talent to pair his love of art with philanthropy. Visiting South America as a representative for New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, he noticed the severe inequality in the region and launched the Venezuelan Basic Economy Corporation. This philanthropic mission won him his first job in politics as coordinator of Inter-American Affairs under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In this position, he proposed new legislation and improved relations between the U.S. and South America. Nelson Rockefeller's Latin American mission. Nelson Rockefeller, a Republican supporter, was an admirer of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. During World War II, Rockefeller's position as the coordinator of Inter-American Affairs, CIAA, grew in importance. He led the effort to establish democracy and capitalism in Latin America, advocating for foreign aid packages, public health campaigns, and foreign investment. Despite adversity, including the UN's formation and Washington's lack of interest in aiding South America, Rockefeller fought hard to secure a regional peace treaty and a place for Argentina in the UN. Nelson Rockefeller's South American connection. After Harry Truman became president, Nelson Rockefeller was out of a job but managed to establish the American International Association for Economic and Social Development, AIA, to counter the rise of Marxism in South America. He also formed a for-profit extension called the International Basic Economy Corporation, IBC, to fund the charity. Through the AIA, Nelson was able to successfully halt a cholera outbreak among Brazilian hogs and helped farmers increase their yields. However, IBEC took over a decade to turn any profit, and the AIA could not overcome the complicated and dangerous political climate in South America. Despite the difficulties, Nelson Rockefeller was able to stay connected to South America and continue his philanthropic work. Nelson Rockefeller's UN quest. Nelson Rockefeller's determination and political power made New York City the home of the United Nations in 1946, and he later became a crucial figure in international politics. Nelson Rockefeller was frustrated with the problems he faced in his philanthropic work, but his political power shined when he received a tip in 1946 that New York City was in the running to headquarter the United Nations. Rockefeller found this challenge invigorating and determined to be the man to solve it. Together with his partner, Wally Harrison, Rockefeller drew up plans for the UN building and secured a location in Manhattan's Turtle Bay through some wheeling and dealing. With the deal nearly closed, he convinced his father to pay $8 million for the land, sealing the deal and securing the UN for New York City. Rockefeller's efforts not only pleased many New Yorkers, but they increased his popularity in the city. However, he was still hoping to get back into international politics, and when the Korean War broke out in 1950, he found just such an opportunity. His political power helped put a good face on capitalism, and Truman gave him a job on the International Development Advisory Board. In this respect, Rockefeller became instrumental in creating Partners in Progress, an initiative that improved job training, education, and public health in underdeveloped nations, while promoting free trade and foreign investment. Rockefeller's determination and political power not only earned New York City the home of the United Nations, but it also made him a vital figure in international politics. Nelson Rockefeller's political journey. Nelson Rockefeller, a Republican, gradually watched the party shift further away from progress, which created disagreements during Eisenhower's administration. Despite the tension, he remained loyal to the Republican Party and became the undersecretary in the newly founded Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. In this role, he proposed progressive changes but was unable to implement them due to the party's focus on smaller government. This led to his resignation. However, he was authorized to conduct the Special Studies Project, which gathered brilliant minds to discuss politics, business and defense, as well as improving the federal government and military. Future presidents would use many of the ideas arising from the project. The rise and fall of Nelson Rockefeller's political career. After preventing the Brooklyn Dodgers from moving to Los Angeles, Nelson Rockefeller's high approval ratings led him to run for governor of New York, winning with remarkable support from a diverse range of voters. Despite his big ideas for reforming various sectors, the Republican Party snubbed him for the presidential election due to differences in views and refusal to conform to party rhetoric. The Tragedies of Nelson Rockefeller. In 1960, Nelson Rockefeller lost his father, press secretary, and advisor. He decided to divorce his wife and publicly split with her despite the risk to his political career. His 23-year-old son, Michael, was lost at sea just as his divorce made headlines. Despite Nelson's best efforts, Michael's body was never found. Nelson Rockefeller's struggles against political extremism. Nelson Rockefeller stood as an outlier in the tumultuous political climate of the 1960s, having been a strong supporter of civil rights. Despite being a Republican, he despised the party's association with right-wing extremist groups. The party, in turn, was displeased with his views, and this became evident when he ran for the presidency. Rockefeller lost the nomination to Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater, whom the party had chosen. At the Republican convention, Rockefeller was met with boos and heckles as he delivered a scathing speech against political extremism, a growing concern in the United States at the time. Nelson Rockefeller's progressive leadership. Nelson Rockefeller's leadership as the governor of New York marks various reforms and progressive bills such as the Pure Waters Initiative, the State University of New York, and the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Nelson Rockefeller's leadership as the 49th governor of New York was significant in many ways. Even though he was blamed by many Republicans for the party's lack of unity, Nelson was a staunch defender of progressive ideals, leading reforms that were way ahead of their time. He demonstrated his skillful leadership in many initiatives, including education, water conservation, and transportation. One of his most significant achievements was the State University of New York, SUNY, a university system that grew to 64 satellite campuses and 250,000 students under his leadership. He also proposed the Pure Waters Initiative, which had a significant impact on improving the quality of water across the state. This initiative's success led to the National Water Conservation Fund's creation by the federal government. Nelson also played a key role in the formation of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which to this day runs the New York City transit system. Nelson Rockefeller's leadership in New York also demonstrated his commitment to marginalized populations. 3 decades before the Federal Disabilities Act was passed, He mandated that all state buildings be accessible for people with disabilities. Furthermore, he raised the minimum wage and established the Urban Development Corporation, an initiative that oversaw the development of cultural and educational facilities and introduced the concept of bypassing the assembly of local city zoning ordinances. Thus, Nelson Rockefeller's leadership was both visionary and instrumental in shaping modern-day New York. His progressive ideas and initiatives stand testaments of his leadership. Clash of Titans. This is a story about the fierce political battle between Nelson Rockefeller, an unorthodox politician, and John Lindsay, the mayor of New York City. The book tells us how Rockefeller's unconventional tactics earned him both political rivals and accomplishments. The two politicians' relationship soured from the beginning, exacerbated by a budget battle that pushed them further apart. The 1968 NYC garbage strike was the biggest political battle between Rockefeller and Lindsay, where the latter refused to negotiate above an increase of $400 for sanitation workers, but Rockefeller successfully negotiated a $425 compromise. Despite Lindsay's refusal to work with Rockefeller, he went on to work with Richard Nixon after losing to him in the 1968 presidential election. Rockefeller assisted Nixon in shaping Latin American policy and on social and economic policy. Nelson Rockefeller, a troubled legacy. During Nelson Rockefeller's tenure as the governor of New York State, he oversaw significant changes but left behind a mixed legacy. Rockefeller was a pragmatic leader who responded to situations based on the facts, although some considered him too liberal for the Republicans and too conservative for the Democrats. During his final term, he employed more conservative policies due to the state's worsening economy. However, his greatest misstep was the creation of the Rockefeller drug laws, which imposed extreme penalties on drug traffickers, leading to a rise in prison populations. Additionally, his handling of the 1971 Attica prison uprising, where 10 hostages and 29 prisoners were killed, was criticized, with many blaming him for the tragedy. These incidents ultimately cast a dark shadow over Nelson Rockefeller's legacy. Nelson Rockefeller's struggles as vice president. After the Watergate scandal, Nelson Rockefeller joined Gerald Ford's administration as vice president. Despite assurances from Ford, Rockefeller struggled to secure a powerful position due to the dominance of Chief of Staff Donald Rumsfeld. Rockefeller clashed with Ford's staff and often voted against Southern Republicans. His critical report on the CIA revealed illegal assassination plots and called for reform. Rockefeller believed Rumsfeld convinced Ford to seek a new running mate for the 1976 election.
Nelson Rockefeller's life was marked by his ability to overcome personal challenges, his immense drive to improve the world, and his unwavering commitment to progressive values. As a politician, he faced opposition and underwent various controversial moments, including the Attica prison crisis and his anti-drug policies. Despite these challenges, Rockefeller's legacy remains as a testament to his profound impact on art, education, and the pursuit of social justice. His journey reminds us of the importance of staying true to one's principles, even in the face of adversity, and the lasting impact one can make in the realms of politics and philanthropy.